I'm going to explain 3 problems with your dashboard design if you use primarily reports to feed the data visualizations, which are called charts. So problem number 1, implementation just takes too long and too manual. So from the end user's point of view, they might be wondering, why is it taking so long? Every change request becomes a waiting game and they cannot move fast. From the architect's point of view, all the heavy lifting happens within report. Although your dashboard looks simple, all the pieces behind the scene are just way too manual and hard to implement. Problem number 2 is it's very easy to break. The widgets look fragile. They might break because there's no data in the report. From the end user's point of view, the chart looks blank. So they might be wondering, why is your solution broken? And they stop trusting your dashboard at the end of the day. And from the architect's point of view, a simple filter change could break the report. And if the widget looks blank, it's going to be very difficult to debug and find out where the source of the problem is. So that brings up to number 3 here. The design would be hard to maintain and scale. So from the end user's point of view, if they were to ask, can we include this for the next year or the new region or new department? It becomes very difficult and manual to scale up and include other data points. They might be also wondering, if I have other ideas, this would take even longer. So it might discourage them from bringing up new ideas. And at the end of the day, from the architect's point of view, it just takes so much work to implement and scale up from there using reports. So to wrap up the problem, for architects, this means slow builds and ongoing maintenance. It's extremely difficult. For the end user, they feel like the dashboard is unreliable. Changes take forever. So they stop thinking creatively because the system cannot keep up. So what's the solution here? And before I get into the solution, just a disclaimer. A metric sheet does not simply replace using reports for dashboards. If your data lives across multiple sheets and new sheets are constantly being added, like a PMO solution, you would still need the report to reliably pull and roll up the data. So what is my solution here that I propose? Simply, it's a metric sheet. But what is a metric sheet, you may ask? A metric sheet is just a dedicated sheet that has all the formulas driving the metrics. It calculates based on your source sheet, and then it displays the data on the dashboard. So it's a 3-layer architecture. Layer 1 would be your source sheet. That is the foundation. This is your source of truth. Layer 1 is the source sheet. That is the foundation. That is where all your data lives. There might be tasks, logs, trackers, intakes, project data. That is your foundation. And layer 2 is your metric sheet. That is your formula engine. It calculates and organizes all the data, and then everything will be used in the dashboard. Layer 3 is a dashboard. Layer 3 is what your users will interact with. That is the visualization layer, which displays clean numbers from the metric sheet. So with this setup, what you now can say is, if the data is there, we can show it in a way that will help you make strategic decisions for your operations. It is extremely difficult and sometimes impossible to display data in a certain way using reports. So what benefits does this have? It gives you long-term scalability. Your workspace grows without breaking. The implementation becomes very easy because you can mass produce metric formulas using drag and drop. You can now display complex visualizations such as trend graphs, cumulative charts, and other comparisons. And this becomes very easy to maintain because you have a single place where you can update all of your formulas and metrics. And another disclaimer here, you cannot display trend or cumulative graphs using the traditional report to display your data in dashboard. You might come to a dashboard, all of a sudden one day on a Monday, you have a big broken widget at the top. As you scroll down within your dashboard, you have other widgets that's broken. And now the client is in trouble because they think the solution is broken. And this is because we're not using a metric sheet. Now, with the metric sheet, everything will be displayed properly without broken widgets. You can now show cumulative and trend graphs, which are extremely helpful to see the growth of your business. If the metric sheet is just a single sheet that has all your formulas and all your calculations, which would display data in the dashboard. My philosophy with the metric sheet is as follows. Because we need to show data in a timeline view, meaning what is the relevant data that is at a given month of the year and perhaps in the past or in the future. What we really need to do is set up the metric sheet in a way where you can quickly scale up the solution for future years. What I've got here is a simple column, actually 3 columns for year, month, and the month name, all the way displayed for the next couple of years. And what we're going to do here is basically create a formula that can extract the data from the bottom layer and pull it into the metric sheet. And once we know that is working, we can simply drag that formula across multiple columns and all the way down to the bottom of the sheet so that it'll work for the next several years. I've gone ahead and created some formulas, but I'll just show you quickly what we're going to do here. Before I forget, the today formula in Smartsheet does not work as expected. If you were to use equal today, it would not return today's date unless you navigate to the sheet. What that means is if you use the today formula and you never access the sheet, when you're in the dashboard, the data will be inaccurate. What I've done here is I've created an automation that'll repeatedly record today's date every single day and put it in a cell here. That way, all the formulas in this metric sheet will reference a clean and accurate date every single day. That's a common mistake that we should avoid. Here I've got a formula that I came up with, and basically it's pulling some financial data from another sheet. I'm looking for revenue. And just to quickly go over the financial sheet that I have, I got the amount in one column, and I've got another column that tells me if that value is cost or revenue. Now, what I want to do is display this in a metric sheet, or rather pull it into a metric sheet. This formula I came up with, let me just delete everything down below. This is a formula that pulls the revenue for 2024 December. Show you is how to generate the metric sheet. So I've got the sheet set up here. I've got a formula pulling from the which we're pulling the revenue. And now that in December 2024, we earned $460. And formula is dynamic in a way. I can connect this across. And now you can pulling the cost that same month. And all I need to do is drag this formula all the way down, all the data pull the metric sheet for every month of the year, all the way down to 2030. So what does that mean? You don't need to make any more until 2030. That saves a lot. And all sorts of magic in here. So cumulative revenue, you need to come up with it as such, and just like you drag and drop the formula all the way down. In the dashboard, very simple. What does it really solve? Number one, because so many different sources, the metric sheet allows you to implement in a single place. Maintenance is a lot easier now that you have a single place to update all your forms. And boosting reports, your visualizations were extremely limited. Now, unlimited imagination and the formulas you come up with. Okay, so now that you've seen the power of the metric sheet, it is time for you to improve your dashboard. So on my screen, as you can see, you might have a folder full of reports. You already know that is a maintenance nightmare and hard to scale. So what I like to ask you to do is simply take one portion of your dashboard, maybe a section where it displays some metrics. Let's turn that into a metric sheet. So what you're going to do is identify an area in the dashboard that you like to improve and automate. Let's start building a metric sheet where you have today's date column that has an automation where it records the date every single day. You're going to have some year and month columns that'll help with the formulas when it pulls data from your foundation. And let's start building the metric sheet with a few metrics that you really care about and see what kind of things you can create in the dashboard.